I thought I knew what chaos was, until the human taught me its true meaning. My name is irrelevant. I do not need one. Titles are ultimately a liability. To be recognized is to have my cover blown. I am skilled enough, valuable enough to the Enclave, that they need only refer to me in the second person, and all shall know whom they speak of. I do not have friends. I do not have attachments. These too are risks I needn't take. I have one purpose, one goal. There is nothing that can stop me from seeing it done. Until today, to me, chaos was the aftermath of my work. It was the result. The screams of panic of a crowd, the hurried steps of security responders, the choked gasps of a poisoned target at the dinner table. It was a sign that my task was complete. The signal to retreat once again into the shadows. I had never considered it as anything else. I was perfect. Perfect shots, perfect plans, perfect action. No facet was unconsidered, no angle unchecked, no stone unturned. All would fall into place, exactly as planned. For many years, this was my hallmark, the only thing that anyone had to know that I was there. For there were none who could match my precision, none who could even come close to my foresight. It was, unlike a name, a boon, for as insulting as it may be to one with pride, the misattribution of deaths to me serves as a deceptive fog, a veil which inflates the terror and fear of all who I may target. Was I truly in the Phlebas sector, or was that another? Could I be here, on the same station, down the street? Any marked by the Enclave for death spent their lives in adrenaline-fueled terror for my mere existence, no matter where I may truly be. To them, I was death itself, and I was around every corner. Then the human came along. I thought little of his work at first. Messy, brutal, inefficient. Tales of the length of his missions, of how often things went awry, assured me that this was a man who could never hope to match me. And so the dragon remained hidden, beneath notice. But while I and many others within the Enclave denigrated his repeated failures, the Enclave themselves did not. They were, as always, unbiased. The numbers do not lie. The human, for all his mistakes, for all his misgivings, for his complete lack of adherence to the assassin's way, the human had yet to truly fail. Even his most sordid and messy of contracts always ended up completed, and though I had not noticed until it was too late, never did he breach the Enclave's code. Traces were never left, despite the chaos in his wake. It was not until the Enclave assigned me to my first ever dual assignment that I came to understand my mistake. I was incensed. To pair me, the perfect, deadliest assassin in the galaxy, with this uncontrolled, temperamental monkey? Whatever task it was, surely I could do better by myself, complete it without incident, without failure, and without mistake. Perfectly. Then the Enclave said words I shall never forget.
"His record is better than yours,"
the shadowy figures spoke in unison. What? That cannot be right. That cannot be. My record was as close to perfect as it could ever get. My one and only failure was the very first assignment I ever received before I had attained perfection. In fact, the catalyst that pushed me to that end. The human was new, with far fewer assignments on record. The only way his record could be better was if... He has yet to fail? I do not understand. My mind reeled. His work is messy. It is brutal, inefficient. He causes rampage and chaos wherever he goes. Surely there has been at least one case of a breach of the veil, or a target escaping into the...
No.
Only one voice spoke now, the head of the Enclave himself.
On none of his missions has the veil been breached. On none of his missions have targets escaped. On none of his missions have secondary objectives been left incomplete. In fact, on several occasions, his results exceeded expectations. Your perfect plans always complete every objective assigned to you. But you do not go beyond this. You do as you are told and nothing more. You are a tool, a perfect one, but he is loyal. He understands our mission and chases our ambition even without a commandment. We believe that there are no hands better to use the perfect tool to further the ends of the Enclave than his.
For the first time in many years, I was left speechless, unable to fashion a proper response. This human, this walking maelstrom of chaos, this dirty monkey, better than me? Superior? I could not accept it. I could not comprehend. How could leaving so much to chance, leaving so much to uncertainty, possibly be superior to perfect calculations? Possibly do better than perfect predictions? I had to know. Quickly, I utilized my augmentations to review his record, in far more detail and scrutiny than I had ever bothered with before. I must know what the Enclave sees. It did not take long. They were right. I had allowed my obsession with perfection to cloud my judgment. He was perfect, in a way that I could never hope to be. He did not need calculations or predictions. He did not need to craft a perfect chain of events. He embraced chaos, used it as his tool. Panic was his cover. Destruction is his favored weapon. By creating possibilities, rather than eliminating them, he gave himself the freedom to adapt, the versatility to do as best fits an ever-changing situation. I eliminated possibilities, entrapping my targets like a perfect game of Yunjo, their demise evident from the very first move. But he does not play Yunjo. He flips the board, detonates the hollow projector, and uses the shrapnel to blind his opponent. By mastering the navigation of chaos, he became able to use it to hamper his foes. If they could not know what happens next, then how could they hope to avoid it? I saw it, the critical moment, the key to his mastery. A single beautiful maelstrom of motions, a strangely elegant dance amidst a riot of panicking civilians. It was as if he could read the chaos itself, predict what would happen in the very next moment, but no further, and respond accordingly. It was a simple mission, though most of its details and the faces of those involved were anonymized for information security. A political body was holding a meeting to discuss some matter or other, and the Enclave saw fit to mark the head speaker for death, a speaker who must die during the Congress. If it were me, this would be an easy task. Simply identify an angle of fire, and use a high-caliber ballistic round to punch through the typical anti-energy defense barriers. Of course, I would spend many hours planning my entrance and my escape, sabotaging key points so that security responders would always be several steps behind. By the time the first officer reached the point where the weapon was fired, there would be nothing left for them to follow. But he did none of this. Identifying him by body language, I watched as he simply walked into the crowd of civilians watching the meeting in person. He threw a high-explosive weapon, instantly killing the speaker and several others besides. I wondered briefly how this was not a breach of the veil. If even one of these individuals escaped, their memories could be analyzed, and almost certainly identify from where within the crowd the explosion came, not to mention the cameras, the recording of one of which I was still watching. But I quickly learned why. He did have a plan. As the explosion detonated, every door and window locked, sealed, the entire chamber. Everyone within was trapped. He became a maelstrom of violence, weaving through the crowd like an aquatic creature navigating a complicated oceanic reef. He plied the chaos of panicking civilians and security officers as if he'd known them all his life. Nearly 80% of the casualties were caused by forced friendly fire or trampling. The remaining 20% were all him, picking off individuals that I thought at first were random. But I realized as I watched that they were all key targets. Those attempting to undo the security lockdown, those trying to rally the officers in the room, those who had noticed the culprit and began to take proper aim, those who had the wherewithal to retrieve a communicator and attempt to call for help. He used every item and object in the room to eliminate at least one. There was not a chair left unbloodied. As the numbers dwindled, and those who were left began to notice their assailant, the chaos transitioned into an almost choreographed performance. Perfect fighting style, not unlike the techniques I myself practice, eliminating what few remained. It was then that I realized what this incident was: the Luran massacre. None knew what had truly happened, only that an emergency lockdown was issued, and by the time responders had undone it and gotten inside, it seemed as though all those within had murdered one another. Bullet wounds from various calibers and improvised weapons, but no signs of chemicals, toxins, or even pathogens. It was as if they had all simply gone mad. Eventually, authorities attributed it to an anarchist group which happened to have dozens of members present at the time, which saw all those who remained outside of it to be arrested. This was but one incident, one where he was particularly unsubtle. His chaotic methods extended to far more than mere panic in a crowd. In one mission, he collapsed an entire building and danced amongst the falling rubble as he went from target to target. In another, he boarded a vessel during an active military engagement to eliminate a strategic officer and navigated the already existing chaos of battle as if it was of his own making. The officer perished, along with most of his command echelon, and soon after the entire fleet. But it was attributed to the foe they faced simply reigning victorious. Nothing remained in his wake, not like the chaos that was often left in my own. The panic I caused served as a warning, a message to those who are marked that they are not safe. But he left no messages. Aside from incidents such as the Luran massacre, his work always seemed to be inexplicable or random. Disappearances with no cause, or freak accidents no one could have predicted. No one was even aware that they were being hunted. No one knew that there was even a hunt. No trails that led to him or the Enclave. If even a sign of intentional murder remained, it was always a red herring, a false trail. The chaos, which normally served as a messy loose end that could breach the veil, instead served him as a cover that could never be seen through. With so many uncertainties, so much left to chance, who could ever say for certain what the true cause of death was? I knew then that the Enclave was correct. He was truly superior. For all my calculations, all my predictions, all my foresight, I failed to see the value of chaos. But now I do, and now I go to learn it from the master himself, to learn how one can come to predict chaos and dance with it. "What?" he says, confused. "The fuck you mean, dance with chaos? Cockroach, I just do my job. Don't matter if things go tits up, long as I get the job done and don't leave nothing of me behind. Job starts and no one knows who I am. Job ends and no one alive knows who I am. Anything in between doesn't matter. If I happen to take out a few extra targets along the way, bonus pay. That's all I care about. Calculations? Predictions? No, I don't do none of that. I just go with the flow, you know, even if it means a bit of overtime." I interrogate, perplexed beyond understanding. But how? How do you manage to perform such feats without being able to predict what happens next? The way you move amongst crowds, the way you turn random objects into deadly weapons, perfect for the task at hand at a moment's notice. Surely you do these things because you have found a way to orchestrate the chaos? A way to guide things? "Now, hold on there, Mosquito," he says, his manipulator forward and splayed before me. "I don't do no guiding, understand? I go with the flow. I'm the one being guided, you dig? I let the wheel of fate take me and make out sloppy style with Lady Luck. Things work out because they do, because I'm just that good. Sounds to me like you waste a bunch of time fretting over the little stuff. But that don't matter. None of it does. End of the day, long as the big stuff is taken care of, everything else will work out. Let the chips land where they may, yeah? I do not understand. How? How do you know that it will work out? What gives you such confidence? I must press further, must learn his secret, which he clearly keeps. Technically, I don't. But I don't need to, you dig? That's the beauty of it. That's just how logic works, he says with astonishing confidence. I respond, latching onto the first true clue he has offered. Logic? What logic is there in this? If you do not know what will happen next, how can you possibly know what will happen after that? You cannot know the effect without the cause. He retrieves a narcotic. I am told that humans call them cigarettes. The fumes disgust me, but I bear with it. I must if I am to learn the key to his success. Well, it's real simple, he begins finally. He reveals his secrets to me. You don't need to know the exact hex code color of every leaf that falls off a tree. End of the day, they all turn some shade of brown, fall off eventually, and land in the general vicinity. If you want to keep them off other people's lawns, you only really need to take care of the few outliers and make sure there's a proper windbreak, or just get rid of the lot. You don't need to know the exact position of every leaf or every blade of grass to know what general area the leaves will land in, or what direction the wind's gonna blow them. Lots of people think of cause and effect like a big old tree of timelines or possibilities, branching outwards and outwards towards infinity with every small detail or step. But what they don't consider is that the opposite is also true. You can flip it around and realize that there are many ways to skin a cat. The path you take don't matter, only where you end up. Long as you know where you're going and get there, everything else works out somehow. I just make sure I'm going to a spot where the job's done. No one's left that knows I did it, and there's nothing left around to tell the tale. Sometimes that means I weaken a beam holding a heavy object and walk away. Sometimes that means I lock down a room and kill 100 people. Sometimes it means I collapse a building or detonate a bomb on the command deck of a starship. Don't matter the circumstances, only the results. I don't understand. He speaks as if he can simply see every possibility, simply know the entire field of outcomes, and simply select the one he desires. How does he know which leaves are the outliers? How does he know when and where the wind will blow? How does he determine when it is appropriate to get rid of the lot, and when it is not? I open my jaws to press further still, but he interrupts me. Hush now, it's almost time. Now remember what I told you. Don't fret the small stuff. Just get the job done, yeah? He silences me, and I obey. Were it not for the mission at hand, I would ignore his command. An assassination, but extremely long distance. The target is a high-profile political leader of a faction the Enclave has deemed no longer of use. However, they have a cordon that is literally 10 kilometers wide. It is impossible to approach any closer than that without leaving a trail or being spotted. They also possess numerous armed response craft carrying personnel in the case of any detected intrusion. I tried to formulate a plan, but the Enclave is adamant that the human be given command authority. I was to be his tool, meaning that I'm the one holding the electron beamcaster, a weapon of utmost precision, custom-made for long-distance assassinations such as this, though this distance would be the furthest in history, at least recorded. I have many times made shots such as this when practicing my craft. Electrons are more precise than ballistic weapons, but they are not perfect. I am likely the only one in the galaxy who can accurately calculate the exact effects of electromagnetic dispersion along a path this long. A combination of my diligence, skill, and augmentations which turns my mind into an organic fire control system, unbound by rigid computational protocols. I am capable of making thousands of complex calculations per second, and projecting holographic simulations of the flight path onto my subjective visual field. In other words, my task is killing the target. The human's task is getting me into position and extracting me from it when the task is complete. I take aim, and the moment approaches. The target must leave, however briefly, his protective fields to transfer to a transport vehicle. I aim for a one-atom-wide gap between the static fields of the structure and the mobile fields of the vehicle. Even for me, it is a difficult shot, but I believe I can...
See that rotorcraft there? The maintenance crew must have flubbed something. It has an exposed panel near the left wing. Shoot it on my mark.
The human commands. What? That is not the plan. We are killing the political leader, not the... I argue. This is insanity. If the target is alerted by a falling aircraft, they will retreat back into their bunker and not emerge for months, possibly years.
Enclave gave me command, yeah? Just do it,
he orders, and I have no choice but to obey. I take a deep breath, redoing all of my calculations. This shot is far easier, child's play for me. But I do not see how it will result in the target's death. Does he hope to crash the VTOL into them? But it is on the other side of the building, even in an extreme case. Now! He shouts, and I pull the trigger. The only sound is a muted zip as the capacitor discharges, then ejects from the rifle, turned to slag. I watch, horrified at what I have done. That was our one shot, our only chance.
Reload, quick, take out the target before he gets to the vehicle. You should have a clear shot now,
he commands. I reload and begin to aim as the VTOL continues to careen and in seconds collides into the rear of the structure. The target is still well within its barrier field. There is no way Wait, that was his plan. Make the VTOL crash into the field, disrupt the barrier and remove the target's cover. The chaos of the crash has drawn the attention of the security personnel in the opposite direction from us. They are standing on the wrong side. With the bunker's field down, I have a clear shot, just as the human commanded. But how did he know? How did he know that the VTOL would...
What are you doing? Take the damn shot!
He shouts, and for the first time since my assignment, I fire in panic. Thankfully, years of training overpower my momentary lapse in judgment. It is not a headshot, but that hardly matters when enough thermal energy is applied to detonate the target's entire upper body. Death is immediate. I am stunned. How could he have predicted that the VTOL would crash near the bunker's field generator? How did he know that the security personnel would assume the attack was in the wrong direction? The weapon has no report. An ambiguous explosion should set them on a radial guard. So how did he...
Come on, we've kicked the hornet's nest now. They'll be on us soon. We need to cover tracks and get the hell out of here,
he says, and he is right. There will be a time to debrief and question him later. For now, we must vanish without trace. What is the extraction plan, I ask.
Walk back the way we came, he says.
You don't have an extraction plan? I exclaim, exasperated.
Hush, you'll wake the dead. Just follow me, all right? Cover your tracks and we'll be out of here with no one the wiser. Little things, remember? Doesn't matter how we leave as long as they can't follow, he explains. I calm myself. I allowed the absurdity of his achievement to once again cloud my judgment. I take a deep breath, and I do as he commands. It was not perfect. They did find us, by chance, from the front. There was an engagement, but it was swiftly dealt with. He used their communicators to deliver a false report, and then covered the trail of the engagement, so that none would know how the patrol perished beyond having been shot. The remainder of our exfiltration went unanswered. When it was certain that we were safe, I questioned him. How? How did you know the VTOL would crash into the field generator? How did you know the security personnel would guard from the wrong direction? I demanded answers. Well, during the initial observations, I noticed an odd fluctuation in the EM field near the back of the building. Figured any explosion big enough back there would probably knock something out of alignment.
He began, but I interrupted. I am enraged. Probably? You did not know for certain? You staked the entire mission and your perfect record on a probably? He appears taken aback, unused to me being anything but professional. But even I have limits. He continues.
Well, I did have a plan B just in case that didn't work. I ask only half sarcastically. Oh, so you did have a plan then? Now he is defensive. For the target, yeah. If the VTOL didn't crash the right way or those security guards didn't take the right hint, plan B was to shoot a different VTOL in the exposed exhaust from it turning towards the explosion. Make it crash and blow up the barrier. With so many explosions, the guy wouldn't have had time to think about getting in his car. I mean, did you see him? He was cowering like a pansy. Guy probably spent years in that bunker fearing for his life. He was jumping at shadows even before you took the shot. No way he ain't gonna freeze up at the first sign of trouble. I do not believe him. I cannot. Not even I could predict a second VTOL turning in the exact right way to expose its exhaust and being in the exact right position such that a shot to it would crash it in the right location. And when exactly did you plan for this second VTOL, I demand? I didn't. I just saw it turn as the first one crashed and figured at the moment that it would be a good backup just in case, he explains. I am flabbergasted. He didn't plan any of this. He hasn't planned a single thing in his entire life. I imagine even his own birth was unplanned. He does not control chaos. He is chaos itself. He, somehow, has managed to achieve a perfect kill record without any semblance of a plan. What training does he even have? I have borne witness to his martial techniques, but at this juncture, I am willing to believe that is a fluke as well. Is this a mockery? Am I the butt of a universal joke? I dedicate my entire life to achieving perfection, and this monkey comes along and does everything better by sheer random chance alone. I refuse. I refuse! I cannot believe my near-perfect record was beaten by a monkey inputting random characters on a terminal. You are mocking me. You have done nothing. You have earned nothing. You simply pray for the universe to hand everything to you on a platter, and it does. I cannot work with you. You are anathema to me, I vehemently spit. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Slow down there, guy. I ain't mocking you. I mean, look. Yeah, I don't exactly spend every waking moment of my life planning the next hit. Yeah, I do rely a little bit on luck, and yeah, that does probably work out more often than it should. But you gotta realize something, man. This is the entire point I was making earlier, yeah? The little things. If that backup plan didn't work, I'd have made a new one. And a new one after that. I'd have kept trudging on and on and on till the job was done right. As long as we're stepping in the right direction, we'll always get to our destination. And as long as our destination is the right place, it'll all work out. As I said, sometimes that means doing one thing, then walking away, like this time. To be honest, this went way better than I expected. He attempts to placate me, but he keeps using the same words, and it does not make any more sense when he does. You expected failure? You expected the target to retreat into unreachable safety? What was your plan then? What would you have done if I had missed and the target had retreated back into the bunker as the barrier re-established itself? Fight through 10 kilometers of military cordon? How would that possibly not be a breach of the veil? Would you get rid of the lot? Just kill an entire army? I shout venomously, confident now that we cannot be heard in the depths of this forest as we await our transport. Well, I mean, No, what I meant to say, fine, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. As good as I may be, I can't fight off an entire damned army, yeah? I know I've been lucky, luckier than I should be. I mean, you got 2 decades of perfect contracts, and I've barely been here a year. The way I'm going, it's bound to happen that I get unlucky one of these days. And when it does, I mean, that's it, yeah? I go out, and that's that. You get to keep going on being your perfect little plan for every minute detail self, and I get to be dead. Does that make you happy? That enough to protect your damned ego? He spits back. I must admit, his words, they strike truer than I wish them to. He is right. I have attributed far more to him than I should, but the Enclave even claimed he was superior. But his time within the organization is a 20th of mine. What then was the purpose? Why assign us together? Why give him command and not me, his senior? Why? Why is this so important to me? I have no name. I have one purpose. Titles do not matter to me, so why does this? Why does the idea of him being better provoke me so? I deflate, literally. My lung sacs empty and my exoskeleton partially collapses. For the first time since I was a hatchling, I cry. I break. Me, the deadliest assassin in the galaxy. Cry in front of this man. He places a hand on my upper right shoulder and tries to apologize. Look, dude, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you cry. Female, I choke. What? He replies, trying to confirm what he just heard. I am a female. I am not a guy, or a man, or a dude, I respond. I know well that my species is visually ambiguous, a fact that again contributes to my anonymity, but at this moment I did not care. Oh, well, sorry. Anyways, look, I get it. Mrs.? He questions. Under normal circumstances, I might try to kill him for even asking. I have no mate. I am alone, I state flatly, now as my tear ducts dry while I fail to recollect myself, descending instead into depressed silence. Miss, then. Look, miss, I get it. You worked hard to get to where you're at. You put in a ton of effort, I see that. I didn't mean to diminish the value of what you do. I mean, hell, you just made the longest shot in history. I couldn't have done that, not in a million years. As much as you find how I do my work unthinkable, to me you're just as impressive. I mean, holy hell, 20 years of perfect jobs, quite literally never missed? I've heard the rumors from the other assassins. Your head is a supercomputer. Better than that, even. You can see and predict things I would never guess. If I had that kind of power, I'd be doing things the same way you do, yeah? But I don't. I'm just a guy, a normal dude with a bit of ex-military experience who read a bit too much into the shadowy underbelly of the G-Fed and got roped into this nasty business. I gotta work with what I got, and it just so happens that I'm pretty good at it. You shouldn't let that get to you. It doesn't mean your way of doing things is wrong. Doesn't mean that my way is the only right one. Paths, remember? Everyone's got one. Just so happens that ours are quite a bit different. But so long as we both end up in the same place, I know what he is to say next, and say it for him. It will all work out in the end. I do not know why, but somehow he has succeeded in calming me. He is right. I should not hold myself to his standards, nor should I hold him to mine. There is no such thing as a universal tool. Each weapon has the purpose for which it was designed. Perhaps this is why the Enclave assigned us together. They believed this task required two different tools of different sorts, my precision and his unpredictable versatility. He is an expert in chaos, so when chaos is inevitable, they call upon him. If a steady, measured hand is needed, they call upon me. In this case, both were needed. Together, we make up for the flaws in the other. Flaws I did not know I even had. Together, we are unstoppable. This is why the Enclave gave me this assignment. They wanted to show me the error of my thinking. And I have learned. I have learned the value of chaos.